All right, let's head out to that studio in the sky here where I'm in my vehicle with Gouda, getting ready for my Route 66 adventure next week. John Wise is on the line with me here. Couple of firsts here. I've never done a interview over Zoom on my phone in the vehicle before, but I running behind for our scheduled interview, which I normally do, in the studio, and there's a camera and even a external microphone and the whole deal, but I got to get with the times. I'm looking at my gray hair and looking at the HD camera on this thing instead of the 1970s camera I got on my old computer. And John, I got to get with the times a little bit. And you are one with the times. You've got a YouTube channel, and you're out there. Wise guys of travels. John Wise out there showing the world what you're all about. So let's take a moment, talk about your travel channel. How you doing, first of all?
Good. Well, at least you said you have gray hair, but at least you have hair.
Oh,
So you got me beat there.
true story. So I've been in the media my whole life, actually, since I was 10 years old. And so I'm very conscious of a lot of the old school media stuff. And I come from the generation that you didn't get in front of a camera unless you had makeup on, unless your hair was done. And so I'm very self-conscious of that. And so I was considering shaving my head before I go on my Route 66 trip here, because I know I'm going to have to be in front of people, and I know I'm going to have to, be in front of a camera and that sort of thing. And, I've got gray hair. I had alopecia, so it's not all the way growing back. But my hair is growing back. I'm a cancer survivor. I missed chemo, and then all of a sudden, I call it my cosmic chemo, because this is a true story, John. So, I'm being told I got less than 6 weeks, 6 months to live, and they're going to go and put me in a chemo treatment and a radiation treatment. And I'm in the consultation with the radiation doctor, and the first thing that is out of my mouth is, "Am I going to lose my hair?" And then the second thing was, "Oh my God, that's the most selfish thing I've ever said in my life. Like, if I'm dead, who cares about your hair?" So after I survived cancer, I literally got alopecia the next week. And so then I went bald from head to toe. So anyway, a long story short, I was thinking about shaving my head, but tell me about your channel. Let's get on you. Enough about me. I don't want to talk about me. I'm here to talk about you.
Well, it's called Travel with a Wise Guy. I've been doing YouTube videos since 2020, and Route 66 has been a big part of it because when I first started my channel, I didn't know really what I was doing. I had no clue really what the channel was going to be. And the first few videos I did, I was just kind of randomly exploring around. But the first videos I ever did that got some level of interest was Route 66, and I did a trip, did the whole route. It was kind of during COVID, so a lot of things were closed. There wasn't much traffic, and but so it was kind of easy driving. But flew to Chicago, drove to California, and then flew back here to Kansas. And I put those videos up, and it was like the first videos that anybody kind of outside my circle of friends ever watched, and started the growth of the channel. I might have had 100 subscribers at that time. And so, I was like, wow, this Route 66 thing is obviously interesting to a lot of people, and it was great for me. And then I've gone back. I have a playlist on my channel, and I have 34 videos about Route 66. One kind of another, whether it's an entire state or maybe one town or a museum or maybe just traveling. I've been doing Oklahoma, Kansas, and Oklahoma because I'm from Kansas, obviously, and I've been kind of doing sections of Route 66 where I go to each town and do some more kind of historical, you know, exploring through the town and kind of providing viewers a little more than I did the first time. The first time I went through, I was just kind of driving the road and I would have a few seconds of each town, and now I'm having minutes of each town and kind of putting them together, and maybe even going north and south of the road a little bit, maybe a few miles to find things that aren't necessarily right on Route 66, so that if people have done it before, they could find new things if they kind of venture off the path, maybe a few miles north or south. So I really love Route 66. It's always interesting, no matter where you go, and I'm gonna continue exploring it this year through the rest of the year.
It's interesting to me because, there's no wrong way to find an interest in something. And but we all take like different paths. And I always explain to people that the first time I ever was in the Black Hills in South Dakota, it was like I had a spiritual connection to it. And so like I literally go back there several times a year just to satisfy that craving. Route 66 has always had a very similar feeling to me, where when I started on this project again, or the Route 66 kind of the bathroom reader I was mentioning that I did for the energy brand, um I didn't realize how much Route 66 stuff I had. Like I've done over a dozen stories in my life on Route 66 in some way or another through through different avenues I've been writing for in my life. And I was pulling them out of like old magazines. I'm like, oh no way, I didn't even realize I did that. And I pulled out an old Route 66 coffee mug I had from 20 years ago that I bought at the roadside relic store in Seligman, type of a. Now, I could be buying Arizona Cardinals. I could be buying, Oklahoma City Thunder things, but I bought Route 66 as my souvenir. And that speaks volumes to me. For you, it was interesting because the desire to grow your channel and share your experiences, it was the Route 66 one that really opened your eyes like, oh, okay, there's something here. And then going into that opened your eyes even further, like, oh, I really like this. Okay, I got to slow down. And it opened your eyes to so many other areas in life. That's what I find fascinating with your story, just right out of the bat. Did you have any sort of historical attachment to Route 66 in your estimation before, you kind of like, oh, wow, okay, before that revelation of the international appeal that Route 66 has?
No, I grew up in Ohio actually, and so not anything near Route 66. And you'd heard about it and things like that, but not until I really did that first road trip from beginning to end did it really make any kind of connection with me. And I'm a very detail-oriented person. If you watch my videos, I go to like the thing that I did on the first trip from beginning to end is I made it a mission to show each community for at least a few seconds, the hundreds of communities. Sometimes you watch YouTube videos and they go to kind of the highlights or, the places that are really promoting Route 66. But I went to the ghost towns. I went to every little community that has any kind of a, level of history to it at all. And in doing that, I started finding things like ghost towns, which has become a big part of my channel. And just kind of off the beaten path places that are not just touristy. So what Route 66 taught me was not only are there touristy places that you want to go and there's shops there and you want to meet those people and that's awesome and I love doing that, but there's also totally forgotten places there to explore too and learn about as well. There might not be anybody to talk to, but there's documented history of these places. And it is great because there is documentation for almost every place along the route now because so many people have interest in it. And so you can go to a city like Tulsa or like Oklahoma City, or you can be in like Glen Rio, Texas, New Mexico border there, or go out to places, especially as you head west, that are more and more desolate or forgotten. And that really became the theme of my channel, going to places that were forgotten, places that had maybe some ruins left, or there was some history that still needed to be told. So Route 66 taught me a lot that first trip, but I had no connection to it before, except now living in Kansas, where there's a little bit of it that goes through Kansas, and I've been kind of certainly driven on it here and there. So just an interest of kind of passing interest initially, but even since then, I thought, well, Route 66 wasn't the only road built at that time. And you realize all of these roads were built at that time, whether it's 77 or 54 or, Highway 64. And all across America, you have two-lane roads out there that go through small towns, just like Route 66. So I hope that the passion that people find for Route 66, which is deservedly so, people can go home wherever they live in the United States and find a two-lane highway that was built in the 1920s and realize, wow, this has got some Route 66 connections even, so Route 66 is like the mother road, but there's all these
Mhm.
little siblings and there's all these little grandchildren and sisters and brothers throughout America.
If you don't mind me asking, how old of a gentleman are you?
51 years old.
Okay, so you are around the same age as me, and um, I thought you were younger. Okay, so well, because
Thank
I
you.
I was going to bring up the interstate system, and I wasn't sure if you're aware of the interstate system,
Yep.
how it changed America, because that's really what you're talking about. Is when the interstate system came in, it turned a lot of these towns into ghost towns. A lot of these towns did not have corporate America. They did not have a lot of corporations because they were small towns, they were communities, and they were up in my neck of the woods, like in Ohio where you're from, a lot of ag, so a lot of grain elevators and a lot of farmers and that sort of thing. When you get into the Southwest and some of those areas, it's more ranching. So now you're talking water stations. You're talking, as opposed to that. And then when the interstate came in, all that went away. Like I literally live 500 feet from Highway 59. Well, the town I'm in was considered to be a railroad boom town in the 1800s when it was made out of wood. We don't even have a post office in the town I'm in. That's how small it is because it's just dried up. I don't mind because I like the river that goes through there. That's the whole reason I'm in the town is because of the river. But I get your point and how these highways have produced so many. To me, they're pieces of art. Like I didn't really put it together until you were talking because my one of my big attractions to Route 66 is it inspires people in so many different ways. You have these giant statues that bring out the industrial artists. You've got some unique infrastructure like Phillips 66 doing safety modifications so they can drive a car 66 miles an hour for X amount, so you've got mass safety innovation, you've got industrial art, plus you've got all the murals. If you're 51, you might remember as a kid, there was a day when billboards were actually hand painted, and so that's kind of what a mural is and a water tower is now. It's still a job for a big time mural artist. And so I look at Route 66 as it inspires people in so many different ways, whether you're a civil engineer, whether you're an artist, whether you're like you or me, just an adventure seeker, out there. The road inspires people in a way that it shouldn't. It's a road. You know what I mean? It's just a freaking road. And you got a television series on it. You got a song on it. You got people sprouting YouTube channels on it. Jamokes like me try to write bathroom reader books on it, so it's a cool road that it just really inspires people. And that's what I've noticed is that it's the artists that came out first. Like, hey, I took pictures and I did this and I did that. Um, you noticed that it was people outside of your circle that came forward for Route 66 first. Who came first in your circle of friends? Who was the first ones within your friends to reach out and say, hey, I like that Route 66 stuff you're doing?
Yeah, so I have a buddy, his name's Kurt, and he's a guy that's worked in television his whole life and was a big part of helping me get the YouTube channel started. And I would always send him the videos and get some advice because I didn't know what I was doing. And then when we did that, I remember him saying, this is going to have appeal to more than just the audience that you started with.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of already knew that working in television and kind of knowing about demographics and different things like that I had no clue about. And so yeah, he was great. There were other friends that had some passing interest, but then there was a website, so I posted it on Facebook, and just so friends could find it. And there was a website that I think it was like Route 66 News or something like that that posted it on their website. And because I kind of made I don't know if I promoted it this way, but I wanted to make people know that I went to every town along the way and at least showed a few seconds of every town because the other Route 66 videos I had seen didn't do that. They kind of went
When you say you went to every town in you went to every town along the entire Route
Correct.
66? Okay.
Yep, I plotted it
Okay.
out. I would pass, if it might be a quarter of a mile off Route 66, I would just go to the downtown, get a few seconds of the downtown, and I put every town. And so like the first it was like Illinois, the first video was Illinois, and it was like, all 46 towns in Illinois on Route 66 or something like that. That was the way I put it in the description.
How long did
And
that take, by the way?
I took 2 weeks to do Route 66. So I was flying through it and to be able to do it, and to go to every place
You
in
were
two
like the
weeks.
Google car with just the
Yes, in a
just the
way,
camera on
yes.
top. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would stop for the night and show up. I stayed in a classic hotel, usually along Route 66. And so that was the first time I did it. But then, afterwards, I'm like, well, I got to go back and do deeper dive and learn more
Hmm.
about some of these places. And so that's kind of what I've done ever since. But yeah, my buddy Kurt, he was a big, big part of that. And, but then I met so many people now that, anytime I'm on Route 66, I'm usually most every time somebody will say, hey, you're the guy that does YouTube. I've seen, some of your videos. And so I really enjoy promoting it with it being the 100-year anniversary. It's really interesting because there's so much effort being put into it, which is great right now. You go to these towns, and I did it 6 years ago, and you see what has changed in the last 6 years as they're preparing for this 100th anniversary. And whether that's buildings that have been redone or shops that have been kind of rehabilitated or something like that. I was in El Reno, Oklahoma a couple weeks ago, and there's an old service station that's brand new now, and they've redone it. They had a grant, they got a grant to do it, and so talking to the people, learning about that. So it just goes to show you when a big community takes an interest in something like that, how much of a difference it can make. And so I think if people have traveled it previously and do it again now, they're going to find new stuff, and done, old stuff done in a new way or something like that. So I think it's interesting. Now it is, like you said, the interstates bypassed it. And so there are places that still are forgotten there aren't places, there are places that aren't having that effort put into it. But to me, those are still beautiful too, because it's like you can still see the history. You can still see those buildings, even though they're kind of crumbling, or there's an old sign there that's from the Route 66 era that has not been changed, hasn't been taken down, is still hanging on. And so you kind of got the best of both worlds with people that are really trying to promote it and rehabilitate old buildings and have stories or places that are still sitting there just like they were when they were forgotten when the interstate went past them there in the 1970s.
That's one of the things that's really cool about this as well is that even for like what I'm doing, taking, 75 days and driving Route 66, I already know I'm going to have to do it again because even with spending one day in each county, I won't be able to hit everything. I mean, and I joke that, well, even if there's four restaurants in a county, I can't hit all of them. I'm not, I mean, I can't eat chicken four times, or whatever. And so, but just even, some of the different things, like you go to a museum, that might be 3 hours right there. So, in most of these counties have a museum, or most of these cities try to have something. I can't wait to go to the barbed wire museum. I can't wait to hit that. I mean, those are the things I want to hit more than anything. Um, do you have a favorite, or by favorite, several? Because it's hard to mention just one thing, but are there certain things that either stand out or you got to go back and hit every time?
So I really love I guess you'd say the western half of Route 66, from maybe the western part of Oklahoma through the eastern parts of California. Like that whole stretch, I remember just it really opens up, and it's, way more, there's a lot of more ghost towns, there's less population. To me, that's my favorite stretch of it. The first part in Chicago was frustrating because I was trying to follow it exactly and trying to figure out exactly where it went. And there's so much traffic, and I'm just like, I can't wait to get out of Chicago, even though it's a beautiful city and there's so much to do there. I like the open road and being real wide open. So once I feel like I get to the western part of Oklahoma, that's my favorite section. I was fascinated in Arizona the first time I went, and I saw the Two Guns town, or the ghost town of Two Guns, which was I had really no idea about it. It's just kind of a weird roadside attraction type of situation. And for me, just going through all these towns for the first time, I didn't know anything about it. So once I learned about it, and I go, wow, this is kind of a wild idea out here in this middle of nowhere, Arizona. So those are the kind of places that really stick in my mind, like Two Guns, and then there was Twin Arrows, which was just not far down the road from that. Uh, I mentioned Glen Rio. That's an interesting one, right on the border with Texas and New Mexico, because you literally can stand on in both states, and you're in Glen Rio, and there is a new business there. The last time I went, and
I'll be broadcasting from there, ladies and gentlemen. So, just to give myself a plug here, because I too was very interested in Glen Rio. And first of all, it is a historical ghost town. So it is actually in the National Archives as a history town. So technically, it's a historically preserved ghost town. And then there's a young couple that is trying to renovate the town, and they're doing it through a dispensary on the New Mexico side. And they literally brag on their website about how they found a loophole in the New Mexico law to have a consumption patio. So we're going to do the show from the consumption patio just so I could hear the story of how they got one over on the man and loopholed their way into this. I'm just laughing so hard because it's an interesting town. Like the two town, there's one in Nevada, Utah that is the same thing with gambling and churches, right? So you've got oil and gas on the Texas side, and then alcohol and cannabis on the New Mexico side. So 100 years ago, when Prohibition was happening, you could go over to Texas, or I'm sorry, you go over to New Mexico to get your booze because Texas had Prohibition. But New Mexico didn't have gas, so you had to go over to Texas to get your gas. And fantastic. So I'm thinking, you know what? Let's talk about the modern day Glen Rio. And so it's so funny how you mentioned, yeah, they got one business.
Yeah, and I actually went in and talked to them and bought a T-shirt, and so I have a Glen Rio, T-shirt that has
The
it's
smoke shop, right? The smoke
yeah, it
shop.
is
Yeah. Don't
exactly.
even try to hide it. Just
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what the picture of the, T-shirt is, and it has New Mexico and Texas. But one other place not too far from there, that's kind of a special place for me is that in Texas is I went to a place called Jericho. And so that was a ghost town. People might have heard of the Jericho Gap. It was a muddy road that people would get stuck on, kind of right there by Route 66. And the first time I went through, they just had a collection of old buildings, and they were kind of falling down. That was in like 2020. And then I had read that there was a couple that bought the town, and they had some, I think, family history there, and they were kind of trying to just keep it going somehow. I mean, it's just a collection of old abandoned buildings, and so I went out there and decided I'm going to make a video about these people and like who would buy a ghost town, why would you buy a ghost town, and the town, and that video became very popular. And they have really done all kinds of things. If you follow them on social media, Jericho Texas or Jericho Gap, and they credit the video for really helping get the word out. They do a 5K on the Jericho Gap. They give people tours all the time. They find so much history all around the place, and they have I don't know if they're making like a business, but it's a really significant place now on Route 66. So if you're in Texas, make sure Jericho is one of the places that you at least cruise through. And the family there, they will go all out to tell you the history and of that one. So that's a special place for me because of the people that I ended up meeting, and they really appreciated what I was kind of the first one to really tell the story of what happened there at Jericho.
that's the other part of too that I find so remarkable about Route 66 is that really at the end of the day it's a national park. So it's protected under the national park bureau or branch of the government. And when you look at it from that lens, that road makes a lot of sense because you do have a lot of art, you have a lot of in the same way that you would look at nature in a beautiful way. um it's interesting to look at a non-living road in that same way, because you're essentially assigning life to a non-living thing. I think that's remarkable in itself. That shows the testament of the spirit of the road, the community connectivity, and just the attraction and the romance that people have for this road and the ability to keep it going. That's the other part, is that people like you and others that are out there just trying to find their little niche of Route 66 that they want to share. I give this example all the time because, again, when I first looked at, okay, how can I approach this road? My background is the media, it's a journalist. I want to do something that no one's ever done before, or very few people have done, right? Because I'm also an entrepreneur. Well, for Route 66, that's really hard. Like really hard. Like I'm sure you've noticed there's a few people that have done ghost towns, and so you're not the first one to do it, but it's a popular subject. And so people that do it, they really have a lot of success because they're not trying to be, they're trying to do their thing, not something original. And so like I was trying to do the county by county because I had not really ever seen that before, and whatever, trying to do something original, this and that. It was when I saw in Kansas, which has 13.3 miles, that's it, of Route 66. So they ain't got much to brag on, right? They don't got the chain of rocks. They don't got the giant golden oil guy in Tulsa. They don't even have, the Grand Canyon 45 minutes away. They got Galena and Baxter Springs, right? So you got two towns basically. But there is a Kansas Route 66 Parrot Head Club. So if you're a Jimmy Buffett fan and you're in Kansas and you're a Route 66 fan, they got something for you. That's when I went, boy, they got everything.
Well, and the stretch of Kansas, because I live here, so I've done very detailed videos about that stretch. They have really added a lot, and so obviously the probably the central thing to see is the Rainbow Bridge. That's a really famous one on Route 66, and it looks beautiful. But the towns have really, they've added a lot, and so I think how you'd say like per capita, those 13 miles is full now of tons of stuff. So I think you'll really enjoy the short cruise through Kansas. And the people, I know people that have a Route 66 Kansas organization, and they've put a lot of effort into it in the past few years. So
Yeah, we'll be
when you get there,
broadcasting.
I think you really like it there.
Yeah, we'll be broadcasting from Cars on the Route in
Yeah,
Galena.
that's a good famous one. Yeah.
Yep, and on June 29th, it's a if that's the Monday, whatever that Monday is, we're actually, so the county before, Cherokee County, Kansas, that's what it is, right? Cherokee
Yep.
County. So we got to jog ahead to Tulsa because we're going to be broadcasting and speaking actually at the Route 66 Road Fest in Tulsa, and then I got to drive back for that Monday in Galena, Kansas, to do the recording session there. You're more than welcome to join us on that Monday, the June 29th, I want to say. And yeah, because we'll, people that are there, and we're going to turn into a little event. I'm going to be giving away some swag and that sort of stuff as well. And I might even, because of the cars on the route, might even do a little game show there if there's kids there and that type of thing. Because for some reason, kids like that route on Route 66 because they do a lot with cars, and that was the other thing that shocked me. I've never seen Cars, the movie, my son missed that, and so we missed that time. And I was too young for Route 66, the black and white television show. Um, I knew of Depeche Mode, Route 66, the older Route 66 song I was too young for. So I was never really influenced by a barrage of Route 66 like the baby boomers and the millennials. I'm surprised at how many of the younger generation love Route 66. I mean, they flip and love it, man. I feel like us Gen Xers, we didn't have anything. We just kind of had to deal with it. You know what I mean? And so that's another reason I was surprised that you were, 51 years old. I thought you were in your 30s.
I appreciate it. Well, a couple things. One, backing up to when you go down there to Tulsa and Kansas, just off of Route 66, and this is kind of some of the stuff I've done to just to let people know, is Pitcher, Oklahoma, which is maybe one of the largest ghost towns ever. They had like 15,000 people. Now there's literally zero people there. And it's right as soon as you cross into Oklahoma, you're within a mile or two of Pitcher, Oklahoma. And it's this incredible ghost town. I mean, it's just was abandoned only about 15 to 20 years ago. And because of toxic contamination in the water from mining that happened in that area. And so passing through Pitcher might be, if you've never been to Pitcher or people listening are in that area, I've never been to Pitcher, it's worth driving through just to see what a place that had 15,000 people 20 years ago has zero people absolutely right now. But going back to the cars thing, I had the fortune to meet Richard Petty just recently, a couple weeks ago. And I was telling, I one of the other things I do here is I'm a track coach. I coach at the university, and I've been a coach for almost 30 years. And the YouTube thing was like my hobby that has become a more significant hobby. But I was telling kids on the team, I met Richard Petty. To me, I mean, he's one of the most famous guys. And then I went, well, he's the king in the movie Cars. The blue car, you haven't seen Cars, but it's a racing themed Route 66 movie. And the king is number 43 and it's based on Richard Petty, but they don't say his name. They just call it the king because it's a car. And they go, oh, yeah, I know the king. I'm like, well, that's Richard Petty. It's based on a real person,
That's funny.
So, yeah, so the young people don't know who Richard Petty is, but they know the king and from the movie. So, yeah, lots of those connections. So, you take your family out on Route 66 and kids are going to find stuff like that too, just not for people like us.
First time some younger kids heard Renegade by Styx, and they're like, "Hey, it's the song from Billy Madison." Like, all right, good enough. Uh, you coach at which university?
Wichita State University.
Well, that's a shocker. Sorry.
Exactly.
Sorry, you set me up. I had to take it. It's a
Yeah.
easy pickings there for that one. That when I used to do sports talk, that was always our line after Wichita State made the March Madness tournament. We'd always be like, "Well, that's a shocker." You got to throw that one out there. And by the way, Paul White, aka the Giant or the Big Show, he went to Wichita State, right?
Played basketball at
Yeah, he
Wichita
was a
State.
center there. That's right. I was having the conversation earlier with somebody, one of our sponsors down in Oklahoma City, and he lived in Wichita for a period of time. And I was thinking of Big Daddy Kevin Nash when I said I think a professional wrestler went to Wichita State, but then I remembered Kevin Nash went to Tennessee, and then I remembered after I hung up that Paul White, who I've met and has the biggest hands I've ever. So right here, right? So if you go from my thumb to my pinky, okay, when you go and you try to shake someone's hand, I literally from my thumb to my pinky, I extended as far as I could, and his whole hand just engulfed my entire existence. And all you could see was my arm going up and down as the handshake went, because those are some big hands, man. Super nice guy, super nice guy. I used to work in the hospitality industry, and so whenever these famous folk would come to town, we'd be able, and I also worked in the media, so it's kind of a 1-2 punch. I would get the you see it, I mean, little, you got to work the angles in small towns, you know what I mean? So at any rate, well, your channel now, are you sponsored? Are you paying for it out of your own pocket? Is this just a hobby? Are you looking to grow it into one day, maybe if you're done teaching, it can be a nice retirement job instead of working at Walmart? What do you think?
Yeah, it's really been a fascinating journey with it because I started it during COVID because our season got canceled, practice got canceled, we weren't allowed to go recruiting, and so it was just something to do. And I made a goal of making one video a week for a year. That was the only thing that was my goal because I thought, well, once this is over, go back to focusing on track. And it just became something that was a lot of fun. And after about a year, I did get close to the monetization levels for YouTube. And then when that started happening, I actually had a few videos I guess you'd say go viral. And it was like, wow, this is actually more than I thought, you know. And so then I took a little more of a strategic look at it and started thinking, is this something, like you mentioned, could it be a supplement to what I do, or maybe eventually what I do? And I'm trending more towards it becoming what I do eventually. Still coaching, still a big part of what I do. But it went from, oh, that's a tank of gas. That's nice. I got a little tank, some money for a tank of gas, to, oh wow, this is actually paying for this trip, to, oh wow, this is actually a significant part of my income now. So I don't really have sponsors. It's mostly just from YouTube, the ads you would watch on YouTube. But one thing I do have is I have a membership section of my channel, and I got about 200 to 250 people that are monthly members of my channel. We do an extra video that's more like behind the scenes of what I do. And people just want to support. They see what I'm doing and they appreciate it and they feel like they want to support. So we sometimes do Zoom calls like this as a group. And so we can just kind of have more personal interaction. And so it has become a fascinating detour of what I'm doing, but something that I really love doing. So yeah, we're up to 75,000 subscribers and on YouTube, and I started a second channel just recently because I do a lot of different kind of things. I've done interviews and I've done museums and I've done dead malls, like, different types of videos. And so the main channel that I have now is pretty much focused on road trips like Route 66, small towns, ghost towns. And the second channel that I started is going to be mostly more like museums, tours, interviews,
Hmm.
things like that. So YouTube took me a while to figure it out, but YouTube likes you to kind of stay in your lane a little bit. And if
Yeah.
you do a road trip video and then the next week you throw in an interview, it gets confused as to who it's trying to, promote it to. So separating the channels, so I have Travel with a Wise Guy, then Wiseguy 2. It's TOO, Wiseguy 2, kind of a, play on words with the number and the word. So yeah, just getting that started. That's actually gotten up over the 1,000, subscriber mark real quickly. So that's kind of what I'm at. I'm on social media, so whatever social media people might be on, you could just kind of search for Wise Guy or Travel with a Wise Guy, and you'll probably find it.
That's interesting. I just was doing my organizational stuff yesterday, and part of my trip is, the mental health side of things. I'm going to be focusing on, and part of that is, that morning time where you start your day, where where you just have your coffee or have whatever. And for me, what I'm doing is in the morning is going to spend some time just kind of, I like to bird listen and just listen to the nature sounds and that sort of thing. Well, I've gotten pretty good at identifying birds and plants and everything over the last 15 years of living out in the off the grid office and out near the rivers and lakes and that sort of thing. And so um I'm going to do a Route 66 field guide, and one of them, and this is going to be kind of on the side type thing that I collect and then hopefully put together on the spare time. But one's going to be birds, another one's going to be plants. And when my research got done yesterday, it's exactly what you just said. I'm doing two separate channels for those because as soon as I start intermingling the birds and the bees, well, they're gonna, have their own offshoot. And so uh, you understand what I mean by it. But yeah, it's funny, even I've noticed that with other people too. Even the beard meets food guy. He started a whole different channel of I think desserts or something like that, and but that's what you got to do. You got to in the content business, I've been in it my whole life. So if you got a wet rag, you try to get as much out of it as you possibly can. Squeeze that thing and get every drop that you can, because what might be a rerun to you is brand new to someone else, and so repurposing content is just fantastic, to do. And I wish you luck on that. Let us know when you do. Um, we'll get it out to our audience and everything along those lines. And like I say, invite you along the road. And are you doing any trips this summer?
Yeah, I'll be, I kind of, the way I'm setting up my summer is I'm going to do some like week-long trips and then I'll sprinkle in some weekend trips. And so I'm so close to Route 66 where I live is that I'll pop down to Oklahoma or Kansas or Missouri and do a weekend, something on Route 66. But then like I'll be in Colorado for a week in late June. I'll be in South Dakota for a week in late July. And so just kind of some popping around some states, been doing a lot of stuff in Kansas and Oklahoma because that's where I'm from on just like a weekend where I'm yeah, I'll head out on a Friday and spend a couple days on Route 66 or something like that. So yeah, I bounce around a lot. If you watch my channel, you don't know where the next video is going to be from. It's not really a chronological necessarily. It could be in uh, Oklahoma one week, it could be in Nebraska the next week, it could be in Maine for a day or something like that. So I like to move around, but the majority of what I do is right in the middle of the country.
Sure. Well, yeah, that's the geography thing,
Mhm.
that sort of thing. Well, is there anything that we didn't touch on, or anything that you want to make sure that people know, or we need to reiterate, or anything like that?
No, I'm excited to follow your trip. You talked about doing something unique. I love the idea of county by county. And how many counties did you say there were?
Depends on which AI or which Google or which Ask Jeeves you ask. I've gotten anywhere from 55 to 58 counties. Um, One of them said 62, and I think they were trying to include like Santa Fe in that or something. But I just said I'm going to do 75 days. I wrote down all 56 counties that I thought were present, but I have a buffer day here and there, you know what I mean? So I can, and when I got to California, I gave myself 2 days per county actually, because they get real long in California versus, some of those counties, like I said, not trying to make fun of Kansas, because they're shorter counties. Like one of
Yeah.
them's 10 miles. Like I thought I could walk Kansas. Like I could actually walk it and do a live stream of me walking Kansas, and I could make it in a day.
Yeah, it's a half marathon,
I
basically, is
mean
what
that
it is.
that that
Yeah.
right, that's the clickbait, right? That
Yeah.
hey, I'm going to walk the entire Route 66 in Kansas in small print, right? That's the other thing I was going to mention too, that I am really shocked that Route 66 national. I'm not picking on Kansas and I'm not picking on national. This is just a right hand and left hand don't communicate, in my opinion. How does Kansas not have a marathon? You run, I mean, isn't it 13.3 miles? It
Yeah,
literally is half of a,
I think I've heard people say different tenths, but yeah, it's right around that. Yeah.
yeah. And so I do know they do a half marathon, and I think they do a marathon too. But the national park system should get behind it and have it be like as big as the Boston Marathon. Are you kidding me? If you can run the entire Route 66 twice in Kansas in one day and it's a marathon, that's brag worthy.
Yeah, just run out on the right side of the road, turn around and stay on the right side of the road on back.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm
that would
saying.
be,
So
yeah.
it's the mile markers are done. Like half the route's already done for you.
Yeah.
Move over Boston Marathon. And in Fargo, by the way, where they have the marathon, that's a notoriously flat one. And so many people run it to try to break their personal best record because it's just so flat. They can
Well,
just
Kansas is flat too, so it would be a fast one in Kansas too.
anyway. But
It
well,
would
I
be cool to
appreciate
for go right
go.
across that Rainbow Bridge is kind of right in the middle of it. That would be an awesome part of it.
Is there a river that it goes over?
Yeah, I think it's more of a creek.
Well,
But
either way,
yeah,
it's a
but
body of
yeah,
water though. It's not
correct.
it's not like a gorge or anything like that. So it's
Very, very small. Yeah, but
that's
it's a
okay.
beautiful bridge. Very
I
beautiful bridge.
travel with my dog, and so I'll stop at a river often, and
Yeah.
that way she can just run up and down, go swim a little bit, get her water in, and I can just relax and feel that good vibes of the water going by and that sort of thing. But well, I appreciate the time today. And what's the website that people can check out on the YouTube channel again?
Yes, Travel with a Wise Guy on YouTube, or I have a website, travelwithawiseguy.com, where kind of everything organizes to, what I'm doing. If you're interested in anything like memberships or merchandise or anything like that, you can go on the website and find everything. And usually everything's in the description of a video on YouTube. So yeah, Travel with a Wise Guy and Travel with a Wise Guy too. Those are the two channels. And I appreciate you, having me on, and I'm super excited for your trip. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to follow.
Well, I appreciate that. By the way, I find it funny because my dog, she's about as subtle as a slap in the face that I change the tone and the rate of when I'm concluding an interview. Because did you notice that's when she got up? She's like, "Okay,
You
it's
know,
time to wrap up. I better get up and go." I my her predecessor would do that with my emails. So when I would type, if you have any questions, comments, please do not hesitate to contact me. I had such a normal repetition down of that when I'd send out my morning radio show to all the radio stations, my dog would then get up and know that that's time to go outside and go for our walk and that sort of stuff. Man, they train us. We don't train them. So
that's
uh
awesome. That's
I
awesome.
I appreciate it and let's stay in touch, okay?
All right, man. Thanks a lot.